Coach Chip has left. DeJounte Murray has some things to say about the Spurs. Is the Spurs ship sinking?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. TGIF. Hope everybody's having a great end of the work week as we head you into the weekend right here on Locked On Spurs. And thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts. What are we talking about today? Well, we recently saw the report that Chip England, Spurs longtime assistant coach, is leaving the ship. He's heading out to OKC to join that squad. But we've been noticing a bit of a pattern here. You know, Becky, she leaves for a job in Vegas. Okay, fine. Maybe it was just a stepping stone for her coaching career. We heard what DeJounte Murray had to say. Things are bigger than basketball in San Antonio after he left. Is the Spurs ship sinking? And also we're going to be discussing Popovich as well as a versus segment with our guest, David Robinson versus Michael Jordan. What? This guy does not need an introduction. You can just say his name and all of San Antonio knows him. Michael Jimenez. Yes. The one, the only. Michael Jimenez is back. He is with San Antonio Sports Star, host of Halftime. Jimenez, welcome to Locked On Spurs, man. I am honored by your presence here.
Yeah, I didn't big time you today, man. What's going on, my man?
Yeah. I big timed Mike Light because we were supposed to do this a couple days ago, but then something came up and I had to change it on you. But glad you're here. By the way, no pressure though. You're on the last Los of the full season of Los. We're having a series finale light. Yes, everybody. Locked On Spurs starting next week until training camp. Will be going down to maybe 3 if there's something to talk about. So Locked On Spurs will be kind of light in the next few months, but so no pressure, Jimenez.
You saved the best for last, but hope you get some time off, man, because you've been doing Spurs coverage 24/7, 365 for quite some time, man.
Your colleague at the Star, Pledger, he jumped on the show about England leaving, but prior to that, I had sent them the rundown. And all I get is these texts. He's just laughing at me like, ha, 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 ha. I'm like, what's so funny? He goes, you have nothing to talk about because we talked about all this before. I was like, is it that bad? He's like, yeah, it's that bad. But then the England news hit, and here we are. By the way, I want to get your thoughts on something. Know what I hadn't done in a long time, and I did it right before we hit record? Ramen noodles. Like the old school college out of the little plastic bag, the square brick in a boiling hot water. I hadn't had that in a long time, and I enjoyed it, Mike.
Now, which one did you have? The chicken, the creamy chicken, the shrimp, or the beef?
At the chicken. I had 2 packs of the chicken.
Wow. No, I do the creamy chicken ramen. I don't do ramen a lot. I might do it once a month or so, but every once in a while I get that craving. And don't get me wrong, we can go to like these places that serve really fancy ramen, but sometimes you crave the Taco Bell version of it all, which is the 20-cent cube you get at H-E-B.
I ate that thing like there was no tomorrow. I said, wow, it's been that long since I had some ramen in me. But hey, you're not here to listen to what I had to eat or Taco Bell cubes. I've never heard that before, Jimenez. But we're here to talk about your silver and black. And yes, mentioned, we saw Coach England leave for the OKC Thunder. We've seen coaches leave. The part of the big chunk of the brain trust, Will Hardy and Ime. We're seeing Brett Brown back, and is this it for Pop? And the Spurs projected to be not but maybe the worst team in the NBA next season. But I gotta that's why you're here, Jimenez, because we gotta talk to you about this. Overall, is this Spurs team right now just a sinking ship right now?
Most definitely it is. I know there are a lot of optimistic Spurs fans out there who think that the team is going to win 30-plus games next year and compete for the play-in tournament. Not going to happen. I mean, Vegas has the over-under at 23 wins, 23 and a half. My
Right.
personal over-under is 19. I think the Spurs are going to finish
Wow.
63 next year. And
Wow.
part
Like
of it,
that, huh?
well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I take a look at the Spurs roster. I see two glaring holes. Who do we have as a starting point guard, and who do we have as a starting power forward? We don't have an answer. There is no answer. You know, I mean,
As of now.
it's not like they're going to pick up anybody in free agency or trade for anybody between now and the beginning of the season. So, I
Yeah.
mean, is it going to be Primo or Trey Jones at point guard? Is it going to be
Or
McDermott
Blake
or is it going to
Wesley.
be like Wesley? Yeah, I mean, Trey Jones is a non-guaranteed contract. So, you know, I take a look at that 4 spot, and are we going to play Keldon out of position again? You know, what are we doing here? And all signs point to this is a tank season. I mean, that's just what it looks like. And I think the depressing part of it all, because I wanted the Spurs to tank last season, so that they could get a Paolo Banchero or Jabari Smith or Chet Holmgren. I wanted them to do what I like to call a V-shape, you know, tank. You dip down for one season and you just jump right back up, right? They say that about the economy. V-shape versus U-shape. And it looks like we're going to go into a U-shape, which means that we're going to be really bad for years to come, probably at least three more seasons. And, you know, when you go on that 20-year run with Tim, Tony, and Manu and the Tim Duncan years and then have 6 or 7 losing seasons in a row, it's going to be painful.
Yeah,
and I think the part of me that really is upset is I think that the tank has gone too deep in what they're doing, and the brain trust is no longer there. I mean, you mentioned Chip Anglin leaving. I was thinking to myself, you know, at least we got Chip, right? I mean, at least we have somebody who can teach our guys to shoot the ball. You know, this is somebody who helped Kawhi Leonard develop a game, and Tony Parker and Danny Green, and you know, he's just somebody who's known as the basketball shooting guru. And now he's off the team. And I'm thinking, you know, how is that going to impact a Jeremy Sohan in the future? How is that going to impact a Malachi Branham or Josh Primo in the future? Negatively impact them. And then, like, I'm taking a look at the bench, and when I'm saying the bench, I'm not talking about players 6 through 12. I'm talking about the bench behind Coach Popovich. You know, if and when he one day retires, who's he going to leave us behind with? Because there's just nobody there. I mean, we see Ime Udoka, you know, coach with Boston, and Budenholzer with Milwaukee, and Monty Williams with Phoenix, and Steve Kerr and Taylor Jenkins and Doc Rivers and Will Hardy and Mike Brown, and you know, it's just like, who's left? Becky Hammond's not there anymore. So I think the depressing part is that it's going to be a more prolonged rebuild. It's going to take a lot longer than what Spurs fans were probably prepared for. But beyond that, it's just like, what's the solution behind Pop? Because we have to actually turn the page on that chapter. I mean, Popovich is the oldest coach in the NBA. He's going to be 74 years old during this season. That being said, you know, he is 55 years older than 3 of his players. 55 years older. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of coaches be good big brother type coaches. You know, Ime Udoka did that in Boston this past season. It was very successful. Monty Williams in Phoenix. And it's just, I just think that, yeah, we can celebrate Pop for his 5 titles. We can consider him the GOAT because he is in that discussion. But, man, if we're going to do a full rebuild, let's do a full rebuild. And that means from the bottom down.
Yeah, he is the final piece, I believe, in this complete rebuild, because you have practically, Mike, it's a college team going out on the court next season. It's practically what it is. It's a bunch of guys that still should be in college. And I know everybody does the one and done, but if they do the traditional route, some of these should be sophomores and juniors and seniors before making it to the pros. So yeah, it's going to be some lean times next year. But you've been railing against Pop a lot lately, whether on halftime or whether it's on the Blitz when you co-host there. But you know what? You know, I want to get your thoughts on Popovich. Why do you think he seems to be some sort of barrier right now to the Spurs, maybe getting out of a U shape as you say, a rebuild. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about Bet Online. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews, news of every league, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. Yes, they have golf at betonline.net. And it continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They got you covered. So head to BetOnline right now. Use that mobile device. Get on your computer. Get on your laptop. Get it on your cell phone. Go learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're back with Michael Jimenez. He is with San Antonio Sports Star. Follow him on Twitter at MikeESPNSA. And we're talking about your silver and black. And is this ship sinking as we speak? Michael, you've been very, saying your piece about Popovich. And ultimately, I don't think you mean disrespect. I think what you're trying to just aim at is just this team probably needs a change of the guard now than later at the head coaching spot.
Exactly. What's the point of developing talent or drafting talent or trading for talent and have Pop leave midway through it all?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things about it is, we saw this with DeJounte Murray being traded and him kind of opening up after he left San Antonio. And there's certain things that he said very cryptically, like, "You're the only one," to Ime Udoka on that Instagram post, "You're the only one who believes in me." Stuff like that. And I just wonder if Pop gets through to the newer generation of players. He doesn't get through to them the same way that he did with Tim, Tony, and Manu. I mean, they were closer in age at the time. I mean, think about it this way. We talk about how Popovich is going to be 74 years old, and he's been with this team for so long. He was in his 40s when he first joined this team. He was in his early 50s when he was developing Tim Duncan. And it was easier for him to kind of communicate with that guy, with Tim Duncan, who's our greatest player of all time, simply because, they were easier in age. It was big brother. It was Uncle Pop type of thing.
Right.
And a 55-year difference, and all the things that the Spurs are not allowed to do. Not allowed to have a personality, not allowed to have podcasts or speak to the media in a certain way. It's so claustrophobic what they do over there. So not only, think about it this way, not only are we a city that is not attractive to these young players who might be free agents, we're also going to say, and if you do by some chance come to San Antonio, we're going to muzzle you the second that you get into town. Why would anybody want to play for that? They have these surveys where they ask players, who's the coach that you would want to play for? And Pop is always top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that's crap because, they may want to get tutored by Pop for a week or two, but they don't want to go through what it means to go through his system as far as personal, on court, and all of that. I just think that it's too much. It's antiquated. It's old. And it doesn't speak to the younger players. And you're not going to change the younger players because that's who they are. That's the generation that they are. Good or bad, that's who they are. You can't change Pop either.
Okay, but look, I got to be a little fair here. Popovich at least has changed the system as the years have gone by, the decades have gone by, from 4 down to give the ball to Tony Manu run it, to the Twin Towers, to forming around Kawhi,
Mm-hmm.
and then to DeMar DeRozan. I mean, he has been flexible in that approach. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good point because it was a different team when it was the Twin Towers in 98, 99, in that time frame, and then when Robinson left and Manu got a bigger part of the offense in the mid-off. I understand that he has been able to kind of evolve along the way. But there's two types of evolution. There's on the court and there's off the court. And it's one of those things where you take a look at Pop at this age, being in his mid-70s. Can you make a long-term commitment to this franchise if you don't know if he's going to be there 2 or 3 seasons from now.
Well,
Why would
according
you
to
think?
Popovich, he should have been gone by now. He was supposed to leave when Timmy exited.
And he should have. And think about the legacy he's going to have. He's going to go down with 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons in a row of losing records. I mean, yeah,
Oh,
5-time
no.
champ and future Hall of Famer, most wins of all time. I get that. But talk about a stain the
Mhm.
second that you walk out of the game. He should have left
Right.
a long time.
What are your thoughts on Chip England leaving? Because we're talking about the coaching staff here, and if it came down to money, at least according to the report via ESPN, that it just simply
Yeah.
came down to a contract issue. And
Now,
then he,
ESPN did report that. ESPN
yeah,
did
exactly.
say that they couldn't come to terms.
Terms of yeah. What are your
well,
thoughts on that?
Chip
Is that
England
more
also-
of a signal to you saying like, yeah, this is a sinking ship right now that they need to, get some putty and plug up the holes? How do you see that?
Well, there's nothing left. I mean, what else is there that the Spurs have that we can we can hang our hat on to? I mean,
Popovich, he's left, yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that we have left. We don't have an all-star anymore. We don't have. I just take a look at it. Chip England leaving. He was one of the highest-paid assistant coaches in the NBA. So for them to not come to terms, I get it, because it's kind of like, why would you pay somebody basically what a head coach gets paid, maybe, to on a team that's only going to win 19, 20, 25 games? So I understand that from a business standpoint. It's just from a morale standpoint, from a Spurs fan standpoint, that it just seems kind of, it just sucks, man. It just hearing that is just like, it just understand that there's no turning back. We are sinking. Even if we have breakout seasons from Keldon and breakout seasons from Vassell, and we do magically get 30, 35 wins, and we are in the play-in tournament and all that stuff, guess what? That just prolongs things. That just prolongs the losing season. Houston Rockets GM said it best a while back when he said the NBA punishes the middle. Either a race to the top or a race to the bottom, and the Spurs are racing to the bottom. And anything to the contrary is actually detrimental to the team. Us going and winning 30 games and getting the 10th spot, which, by the way, a lot of the, scouts and prognosticators when it comes to the draft or whatnot say that this is actually one of the best drafts coming up that we've seen in over a decade. So it's beyond for Wemby. It goes way beyond that.
Yeah, I look, no, this sinking ship obviously is going to find its footing, its ground, because if they do have a 19-win season, as Michael is predicting, then yeah, the odds are high for the Spurs to get a Wemby or even a top 3 pick. But for the present, yeah, it looks bad. Do you think as of right now, this is just a ship without a rudder?
That's the problem that I see. I was very complimentary towards Brian Wright for a lot of the moves that he made this year. Trading Bryn Forbes for picks and Thad Young for a first rounder and Derek White for a first rounder. And I understand the trade for DeJounte, though I disagree what they got for it. I do understand it. But that's where it kind of turned for me, because I was like, okay, we got a first rounder for Thad Young. That turned out to be the number 20 pick, and we got Malachi Branham for it. We got Blake Wesley for Derek White. We're stocking up picks. Trade DeJounte Murray. I thought it was an awful trade. I still think it's an awful trade. We got 2 first rounders and the potential for a third. They're selling it as 3, but it's 2 way down the road and 1 that may not manifest itself. I just think that right now the brain trust isn't there, man. There were a lot of great minds in there from back in the day with Presti and Hardy and all of those guys that were there. There was just this, and when R.C. Buford wasn't CEO and he was the GM, there was something different going on. I understand the vision that Brian Wright's trying to do, which is basically accumulate a lot of assets and then kind of build over the course of 4 or 5 years. I see it. But I just think that, like with the DeJounte deal, they could have waited. The Spurs still had leverage. All of that reeked of we just cannot be burned the way that Kawhi burned us. That reeked of.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is not good times right now in San Antonio. Now, again, the light at the end of the tunnel is, as of right now, a possible number one pick, top three, worst case scenario. Maybe another bright spot is Spurs at the end of next season or before the trade deadline, do some more flipping of these players and asset acquired picks. So, yeah, I mean, sure, right now it looks bad. Optically, Chip England leaves because reported contract, DeJounte's comments, the brain drain that's going on in San Antonio of late. So yeah, this is what a rebuild looks like. And the Spurs got to hit rock bottom in a rebuild before they can climb back up. We're not done talking though. We get back, we're going to wrap up our talk with Michael Jimenez and his final thoughts on this current state of the Spurs. And then fantasy versus Robinson versus Jordan. Who would win? Yeah, we'll be right back. We're back with Michael Jimenez right here on Locked On Spurs. Follow him on Twitter at MikeESPNSA and check out his show, Halftime, on San Antonio Sports Star. He's going to brag about that in just a few minutes. So any final thoughts on the current state of the Spurs right now? We kind of hit the highlights. England left, Murray's comments, very young team. But this is part of a rebuild, Jimenez. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, it's part of a rebuild. I'm interested to see what the rookies bring to the table. I mean, I'm sure they're going to spend a lot of time in Austin this year, but seeing what Blake Wesley was able to do in Las Vegas, and he looked good most of the games that he was out there. Malachi Branham started off slow over there, but kind of caught his stride towards the end of the summer league. So I'm interested in that. We haven't seen Sohan because he had health and safety protocols. Because of that, I'm focused on that. This is a very incomplete team. We don't have a power forward. We don't have a point guard. But there are things to cheer for this year. There are things to kind of look at and hang on to. But in a rebuilding year, I guess the three things I would focus on the most are the rookies and what they're doing and their development. Number two is the development of Joshua Primo. There's debate as to whether or not he had a good rookie season or not. I was okay with it. But it's just one of those things where you take a look at it, and I think for it to be ultimately a bust, if he doesn't get that sophomore slump, can he improve?
Right, yeah. The jury's still out on him, in my opinion. Yeah, but we're definitely going to get a good dose of Primo next season and a bunch of the young guys. And I still say this roster is probably going to look still different. I mean, what's the future of McDermott? What's the future of Josh Richardson? Jakob Poeltl? Right. Perhaps outside of Keldon, he might be the next best tradable asset for the Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs will make a trade. Oh, by the way, the third thing I'm looking at is if there's going to be a leap made between Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, who is our alpha? Yeah. Who is our alpha on the court?
Well, it better be KJ because he's getting paid like an alpha.
No, he's not. He's the 73rd highest paid player in the NBA. He's getting
for
paid
the team. The highest paid on the team. So on the team, you're looking at him as the cornerstone for the amount the team paid him. Not a cornerstone, maybe a big piece of this rebuild.
And Vassell will make more in 2 years anyway. So it's just.
He met us, and then they'll be gone, right? Just like DeJounte?
Yeah, good Lord. Don't tell me that. But, you mentioned trades. That's going to happen, man. That's what the Spurs are doing. Poeltl is an attractive piece. He's only making around $10 million a year. So, that's an attractive piece to take on at the end of the year. Very much like the Spurs got rid of Derek White and Thad Young. They can do the same with Josh Richardson, expiring deal. Doug McDermott, not an expiring deal, but it's a manageable contract. There are playoff teams who would look at those guys and say, we need that guy.
Oh, for sure.
And so the Spurs can roll the dice. We are in Philadelphia 76ers mode from 7-8 years ago. We are in OKC Thunder mode from 3 or 4 years ago. And we're doing. We got one, we are.
And the team has one of the best in the business, Brett Brown. So he knows all about trusting the process.
Exactly.
And he's back in San Antonio. Yeah. We want to hear your thoughts on this current state of the Spurs. Do you believe it's a sinking ship right now that's only going to find its feet and rudders later down the road? Or do you think it's going to be, as DeJounte Murray says, 15 years until the Spurs are back to relevancy? Let Mike know on Twitter at Mike ESPNSA and subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. Jimenez, you had some, I guess, fantasy fun with former players and elite players from Robinson and Jordan. And all this stemmed from the ridiculous comment that former guard Wizards and the Warriors, pick a team basically, he was kind of a journeyman, Gilbert Arenas had to say in an interview with Fubu Sports that Manu Ginobili is not a top 5 6-man of all time, and that one-on-one individually, he's not as good as Jamal Crawford. But the point is, that got you going and thinking about versus battles. And you had a couple of battles, didn't you?
Right, and people made fun of me for it, but I stand by it. So Gilbert Arenas, his comment was, well, who would you want one-on-one? If Manu Ginobili, went against Jamal Crawford, Crawford would take him, man, because Crawford's a better player. Therefore, Crawford's a better player because he could win one-on-one. And I said, well, that makes absolutely no sense because, first of all, basketball is not played on a one-on-one basis, right? It's 5-on-5. It's what you bring to a team. And I made reference to the fact that Michael Jordan is arguably, to many, many people, the greatest player of all time in the NBA. So I brought up the question on halftime. And it was off the cuff, so I wasn't planning on it. But I brought up the question, okay, if Michael Jordan, if we're going to use the logic that Gilbert Arenas has, engaging players, can Michael Jordan win a tournament of one-on-one basketball back in the day? Prime Michael Jordan. And Rudy J and Pledger came up to me, and they're like, well, who would have beaten him in his prime? And the first name that came to mind was Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon, and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I bet you David Robinson could have beaten Michael Jordan one-on-one. And it's not so much because they're better players. It's just simply because they're taller players who have offensive games to play defense that can match up and be just as fast as Jordan is offensively, can be just as fast defensively. So I used that. I said, the Gilbert Arenas thing, if we were going to have a one-on-one competition, I believe that Hakeem Olajuwon would have beaten Jordan. I believe that David Robinson would have had a good chance of that. And if you were to go to today's players, LeBron James in his prime, Giannis, I think, could have taken Jordan, not because they are better athletes or better this and that, just simply because they're bigger, right? And people were giving me crap about it because Michael Jordan, it's all revisionist history. Michael Jordan.
But it's not like Jordan went up against string beans. I mean, he had to deal with Oak. He had to deal with Mahorn. I mean, these are burly guys.
But they weren't on his position. They weren't on his position. I did see a YouTube video of Hakeem Olajuwon swatting Jordan 4 times in a game.
Well, Robinson did the same thing, but to Jordan.
Robinson did do that.
But I mean, you're talking about different positions, though. I know you mentioned it right now, but I mean, Robinson was 7'1". What was Jordan, like 6'7"?
6'6".
6'6"?
He was 6'6" out of North Carolina. Yeah. So I just take a look at it, and I just thought it was a really bad argument. But I started thinking, like, if there was a one-on-one tournament between all the players in the NBA today, who would win? And I personally think it'd be Giannis. But if you want to do it, well, what about the guards against guards and wings against wings? And I think it's a fun argument to have where it would be like March Madness of one-on-one ball, because it really doesn't matter, man, because
Jimenez, you're going to get a lot of reaction for this stuff. You know that, right?
What's that?
You're going to get a lot of reaction from what you're saying right now.
Oh, yeah, I know, because there are people who think that Michael Jordan shot 183% from the field. He never missed a shot. You're not aware of that? He never missed a shot, right? I'm sorry, man, but it's funny. Now, if you were to say Michael Jordan would have beaten all the other guards, well, of course he would have. I mean, Craig Elo, Mark Price, John Stark, he would have beaten all of those guys, But
I don't know about, Clyde Drexler might have something to say about that.
Magic Johnson would have taken out Jordan. A 6'9" Magic Johnson at guard. I mean, he could do a hook. He can drive in. He can shoot. Yeah, but the thing is that none of that means that Jordan isn't the greatest of all time. You can still say that Jordan's the greatest of all time because it's a team sport. And that's where Gilbert Arenas was an idiot. And I was like, you know what? Manu Ginobili made all-NBA teams. He made all-star teams. In the 20 years that Jamal Crawford was in the league, who's a great player, by the way, very good player, never made an all-NBA team, never made an all-star team. Now, he has more Sixth Man of the Year awards, 3-1 over Ginobili. But Manu also had a gold medal. Are you telling me that Jamal Crawford...
Here he goes.
Are you telling me that Jamal Crawford could have taken the 2004 Argentina men's basketball team to beat Team USA that had Duncan and LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade and had Emeka Okafor and Allen Iverson and Steph Marbury? You're telling me that Jamal Crawford could have taken those four other guys who eventually made the NBA to a gold medal? Crap, full crap. Manu Ginobili is the best sixth man of all time. He is.
There you go. See, I want to end it right there, Jimenez, because I want you to that'd be your final remark. Because I want you to get too much tomatoes thrown at you when they hear a lot of your comments right now regarding Jordan and D-Rob and Dream. And yeah, those were the good days, weren't they? There were some really good days in the 90s. Really, really good days. I miss those days. But Jimenez, we are done talking. Time for Los to get on a little bit of a mini vacation.
End of the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just so rough right now. I mean, I pulled 2 Locked On Spurs in a row about the new jerseys, the SATX jerseys. That's how light it was. So, but knowing my luck, watch next week, something big's gonna happen. And I'm like, great. One time I didn't have to bug. He managed to come on Los or Pledger or whoever else is on the rotation to come.
I'm waiting for the Spurs to throw a pool party in San Antonio. Waiting for that to happen. We don't have pools in San Antonio?
Yeah.
You have to go to Austin for that?
No. There's plenty of pools in San Antonio, but yeah, in case you didn't know, Locked On Spurs. Yeah, Locked On. What's that? Was that he meant? You do a parting gift?
No, I was just saying. I'm so frustrated right now about the whole Austin thing. I'll never get over it. We're in a throuple with that city, and I don't like it.
I never thought I would hear the word throuple on Locked On Spurs, but here we are talking about throuples on Locked On Spurs. We are done talking. We want to hear from you. As mentioned a little while ago, and repeat it again, yeah, Locked On Spurs is going to go in a little bit of a down period-ish starting next week. I'm going to try for 3, maybe get 2. It's just there's nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. So hopefully there will be something to talk about so you can continue getting Locked On Spurs. But make sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, YouTube page, the Ken's 5 Plus app, Ken's 5 YouTube page, Spotify, iTunes, Apple. I mean, pick a platform. Locked On Spurs is there. We thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA. 30 minutes of NBA news in just one podcast. Now, Jimenez is going to brag about the San Antonio Star, halftime, and much more. What's going on over there?
Oh, hey, we're heading to Cowboy camp. So
woohoo! How about them Cowboys?
Monday through Friday, man. Spurs fans are turning into Cowboy fans because we're living in the past. But anyway, Cowboy Camp is getting going in Oxnard, California. R&R in the morning will be there Monday through Friday. We'll also have the Blitz there as well. I'm manning the station back home. So it's going to be an exciting time. So halftime is from 12 to 2, Monday through Friday. Sports, pop culture, a lot of nostalgic things as well. It's not Hot Take City. Okay, sometimes it is. But, it's funny because people think that people give me much more credit than what I deserve. They think that I sit here and think about my hot takes. No, this is all off the cuff more often than not. But it's a fun show, and Pleasure is a big part of it as well. And I have a fun time doing it, and I cannot believe it's coming up on 1 year doing halftime on the Sports Star.
Congratulations, Jimenez. Congratulations. Yeah, you really turned...
Coming up soon.
Yeah, well, an early congratulations then, because you really turned that ship around there, from the... what's the tagline? sports, nostalgia, and pop
Nostalgia,
culture. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and everybody loves tuning in to hear about your movie reviews. Everybody loves, quote unquote, your movies reviews, as well as the latest in sports world. So yeah, check out Halftime. I love it. I go on there frequently. I love it when Jimenez brings me on. And yeah, so for Michael Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.